Hello, everyone. Let me make sure this is all looking the way it should. Yeah. Hey, everybody. It's good to see you all. I am back for another evening edition of Just Chatting. Wanted to see what you guys were up to, wanted to say hello, wanted to answer any questions that you have about immigration, U.S. immigration, that is. I'm Carol Williams. I am managing attorney at a boutique immigration law firm, Williams Immigration. And although I am in South Florida, and that's where the firm is headquartered, I work with clients all over the U.S., all 50 states and DC, as well as internationally. So we've got clients all over the US and all over the map. So, and every so often I get on live and chat with you guys, tell you what's going on in the world of immigration and answer any questions that you have. We had a really good conversation last night with folks, so I wanted to come back on and chat. And a couple of things I think that you guys should know is that in family-based cases, USCIS is now taking the position that they don't have to issue an RFE for things that are missing. So it's super important to make sure that your applications are filed with everything that they need the first time. That is not to say that they will not provide an RFE, but they're now kind of saying they don't have to. And the previous policy was that they would, right? So we are keeping that in mind as we file, as we get things together. So just keep that in mind, please, and thank you, especially if you are doing it by yourself. If you are doing it by yourself, I cannot stress enough to keep a copy of what you have filed. I get calls from people and messages from people that they've filed the application on their own, they've run into problems, and the first thing I and my colleagues ask for is a copy of what you submitted. That helps us figure out what's happening. As a former USCIS Adjudications Officer up in DC, it helps me step back into those adjudication shoes and look at the file objectively. So if you're going to do it by yourself, make sure that you make sure that you keep a copy of whatever you send into the Immigration Service, because it takes someone like myself forever to get a copy of the file. And usually people come to me when they have filed on their own. They get an RFE. The RFE is very time sensitive. And so sometimes it doesn't give me enough time to help folks. And so that always kind of sucks if I don't have enough time to get the file and help. So just keep that in mind. USCIS is not always issuing RFEs for family-based cases anymore. For naturalization cases, there is a criteria for a naturalization case called good moral character. Essentially, it says and means that you're a good person, you haven't committed any crimes. That's like kind of the big thing that they look for, that you haven't committed any crimes, that you have filed your taxes when you should have filed your taxes. If you didn't and you got behind on what you owe, they want to see that you have a payment plan in place and that you are abiding by that payment plan. And another big thing that they look for, if you have children, that you are supporting your children. So whether that's with a formal child support arrangement through a court here or overseas, even if there's no child support, no formal court issue child support, I have had USCIS ask for evidence that the immigrant is taking care of their child. And that can look like a myriad of things. That can look like a letter from the co-parent saying, yes, this person sends me money for the child every week, every month, every whatever. This person is responsible for and has said they will help with, summer camp fees and school fees and school clothes and groceries and part of rent and, whatever your individual arrangement is with your co-parent. So that is what good moral character usually looks like when we are processing an application, when we're putting an application together. It was really the absence of things that found you not to have good moral character, right? So we would say, oh, you don't have a criminal record. Great. We can, you're great. You're taking care of your kids, all the things. Now good moral character is looking more so like that. And what have you done? What have you done in your community? What have you done at your job? What things are you doing where we can affirmatively argue and show that you are a person of good moral character? So that is going to be that's a little bit different than what we have been doing and what the Immigration Service has been requesting. So we are looking, at least internally in my firm, about how we now file these applications, the information that we're going to want from our clients, and how to best position these applications given the changes that we're seeing. Joanna, good evening from St. Kitts. Nice to see you here. Thanks for stepping in and joining. If you guys have any questions about U.S. immigration, feel free to put those in the chat. I'm happy to answer them. But just keep in mind, while I am a licensed U.S. immigration attorney, I am not your specific immigration attorney, so I can't give you legal advice on your own specific case until you become an official client. And you do that by us having a consultation and then paperwork, and then you're a client. But if you have any sort of general questions, a lot of questions I get are about processing times and how you find those on the USCIS website, and what I think may happen or what's happening or have I heard. I get a lot of those in the DMs. Have I heard about this new policy? Do I think this will happen? Or what do we think about this? So if you have any questions, feel free to pop those in the chat. And we are live on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, as well as TikTok. That is my general social media platform, but also on LinkedIn, where I go live most Monday mornings. The LinkedIn Monday mornings are mostly about business immigration, though. I do touch on some of that during the evenings, but most of the Monday lives are about business immigration and what's going on in terms of when you're hiring people, when you're sponsoring them for green cards, and you're the employer, what happens when you're self-sponsoring. I am more than happy to talk about that here in the evening as well. I just find that most people at night like to talk about family-based cases and naturalization cases, which is totally cool. I'm happy to chat about all of it. What questions do we have? Someone is asking, how difficult is it dealing with OPLA these days? Are they somewhat reasonable and fair? So really, the short answer to your question is I don't know. I do not deal with OPLA in my practice, really ever. So I don't know. Although I will say this, I have not heard my colleagues who do deal with OPLA really kind of talking about it or complaining about it or having massive issues at the moment. Now that could just be because I don't hear them complaining. I don't know. But I haven't heard anything where my friends and colleagues are sort of banging their heads against the wall when it comes to dealing with OPLA. So sorry, I don't really have like a ton of info on that for you. I can say though, not OPLA, but USCIS. USCIS has been, I've gotten some cases, and other colleagues, we've seen this. We've gotten some cases come back really fast with approvals, not just a super fast RFE was issued or request for further evidence, but like really a super fast approval. And by super fast, like well ahead of processing times. So I know that Department of Labor has cut down their prevailing wage times for green card cases to about 4 months. And not that long ago, we were looking at like a year of waiting for a prevailing wage. So I am all for processing times getting quicker. I think maybe it is because I know they have actively, since COVID, they've actively tried to get through their backlog, which is great. I also think some of my USCIS cases have come through so fast because I think some people are a little bit scared off right now in terms of filing, but I am here to say, truly, things are getting approved. Things are absolutely getting approved. I just sent out an approval notice today to a client, which came in shockingly record time. Not only did we get the decision in shockingly record time, we got the approval notice in shockingly record time. So I will take all of that. But yeah, we are definitely seeing things get approved. So I know that's not what you're seeing on the news, but my colleagues and I, we are getting things approved. So if you think you are qualified, you think you meet the criteria for a green card, for U.S. citizenship, for a work visa, apply. If you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to wait till everything cools down, or, I'm going to wait till it gets a little bit easier. Listen, I've been doing this for a while, almost 30 years now. Things are not cooling down. They are not getting easier. Immigration only gets more complicated. It only gets more complicated. The processing times only generally ever get longer since I've been practicing. So if you're waiting to file because you think things are going to get easier, like, stop that. Like, truly, just have a consultation and let's get you filed, right? Like I said, I've gotten some record fast approvals recently, which just makes me very happy. Joanna Collins is saying, I have a friend who is going for her naturalization interview in 2 weeks. I need general advice. Yeah, general advice, be honest, number one. Number two, read over the application that she sent in. She should read that over, know what's in it. I don't know when she filed it, but I always want my clients to read over their applications before the interview so that they can remember what was in them. Sometimes it's over a year before we go into it's sometimes there's a year gap between when we file and when we have an interview, or sometimes it's only a couple months, but so much happens just in life, right? Like, just life is sometimes life. And so I want my clients to take some time, really look at their applications and remember what was in them. And remember, an application is only a snapshot in time. It is what was happening the day that application was filed. So, if things have changed, if she has moved, if things that were true when you filed the application are not true now, there will be an opportunity during that application to go over those things. So good luck to your friend. If your friend wants to do a mock naturalization interview with me, she is welcome to do that. I do that with my clients. I have been told that I am a little meaner, a little more aggressive than the immigration officers. But my philosophy is I would rather you get an aggressive me than an aggressive officer and get completely jarred in the interview. But good luck to your friend. Let me know how it goes. I like to celebrate wins, even if they have zero to do with my firm, right? I think a win is a win, and we can all celebrate that. So good luck to your friend, Joanna. Fran Claw is asking, I have an I-140 approved, and my daughter is 22 years and 8 months, and the I-140 was pending for 3 months and 10 days. Is she UDEF CSPA? I don't know what UDEF means, but Child Status Protection Act. The short answer to your question is I don't know. And the reason I don't know is I'd actually have to sit down and do that Child Status Protection Act math. Is she under the CSPA. Got it. So I'd have to actually sit down and do the Child Status Protection Act math. And if any of you have been following me for any length of time, you know I don't math. I think I'm very clear about that. I don't math. I was joking with someone the other day. I was like, oh my God, I don't math in public. But all jokes aside, I would have to actually sit down and see the documents and do the math, which I'm more than happy to do. If you want to schedule a consult, I'm more than happy to sit down with you and go over that. But could be, I don't know. Again, that honestly requires math. And in terms of Child Status Protection Act, the Immigration Service just changed the dates by which they are going to use for the Child Status Protection Act. So that is another reason that I would need to sit down with your documents and really just do the math. So hopefully that's probably not terribly helpful for you to know that I don't math, but I don't want to give you any information that isn't accurate. But yes, so for those of you that don't know, Child Status Protection Act is a way to essentially freeze the age of children, or we call them dependents when we're sort of talking legalese. But in general, a child or a dependent in the immigration world is your child that is under 21 and unmarried. And so ages ago, years and years ago, the Immigration Service realized that children were what we call aging out of being their dependents when it came to getting a green card under their parents' applications because of the wait times for the application itself, for the green card application. So they came up with this Child Status Protection Act, which was a way to freeze the age so that children were not harmed by the length of time an application was pending. So it is a mathematical equation. Again, if you've been following me for any length of time, you know I always say I don't math. I certainly don't really math in public. I used to have a really cool tip card when I was in law school. I got that like I think it was like the first week of law school. It was fantastic. I had that tip card for years and then I lost it. So sad for me. But Child Status Protection Act is super important. Also super important is if you are filing or you want to apply for your green card and you want your children to be on it and they are getting close to 21 in age, you know, if they're like 17, 18, that's something you want to start looking at now because of the current processing times, because of the Child Status Protection Act. We just want to, you know, give you as much time as possible, given whatever the current processing times are, so that hopefully your child can fall under you as a dependent and that they don't then have to figure out, you know, then they don't have to go and sort of figure out their own immigration status. Not that you wouldn't help them figure it out, but, you know, and sometimes we're able to make that happen, sometimes we're not. So it just really depends. But the sooner, if you have children and you want them to also get a green card, the sooner you start that application, the better. Frank, I hope that was helpful. Let me see what else we got over here. I saw some questions come in. Someone is asking, what happens when your I-130 is approved and not your I-45? So I don't really have any context around that. So I'm going to kind of create context where I usually see that happen. If you're filing an I-130 and a 485, it used to be the policy the past couple of years was that you didn't have an interview. You didn't have to go in for an interview. If the immigration officer thought your case was approvable without an interview, they thought, you know, your evidence was really good. It was sort of a nice, clean case. Those days are gone. Like, let me just be clear, those days are gone. So now everyone is basically being called in for an interview. So the I-130 is the application essentially that is owned by the U.S. spouse or the green card holder spouse, and the I-45 is the adjustment of status, which is really all about the intending immigrant. So, I lost my lighting. So when I see an I-130 that's approved and an I-45 that is not approved, sometimes it will be because the background checks have not come through for the I-4. Oh, I have my lighting back. Yay. Which means it's probably going to die soon. It's fine. Actually, I'm going to just turn it off. It's a little weird. Usually it will mean that the I-130 is approved. That means that they believe it's a real relationship if it's a marriage case. Or if it's a family-based case, that they can see that, it's the right relationship between birth certificates, marriage certificates, whatever. But maybe the background checks haven't come back, so they can't complete the I-45, or maybe something came in the background check that they want to look at a little bit closer. So those are things that I see often. Could be that the I-130 is approved, the I-45 is not approved, only because the officer has to sort of run it up the chain of command. So maybe they have an office-wide policy where a supervisor has to look at all of the 45 approvals. So that could be it as well. Kind of a lot of different reasons why. But those are reasons that I tend to see fairly often. So I always tell my clients, we're going in for this interview. Don't be freaked out if you don't get an approval right then and there. That sometimes happens. The approvals can come a couple weeks later, a couple months later, but you don't always get your approval right then and there. So that could be why, quite honestly. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything nefarious. What else do we have? Stop. This is an employment-based question, which is a good one. After Department of State sends a not favorable recommendation to USCIS, is that a straight denial for a J1 waiver? So, I'm going to charge this light. So for those of you that may not know, a J1 is it's a training visa, essentially, but it's a non-immigrant temporary, sort of thought of as a work permit type of visa. Charge my light here for a little bit. Oh yeah, she's more than dead. And it's a training visa, so sort of the tricky thing and the very peculiar thing about J1s is that for some individuals from certain countries who are coming to the U.S. under certain circumstances with their J1s, they are required to go home for 2 years and share the knowledge which they have received on their J1 program. There are waivers that people can obtain. Usually you need a waiver if you received any sort of government funding from your home country. You need a waiver if you came over as a doctor and got medical training. And then there's what we call the skills list, which is a long list of skills broken down by country. And certain countries have decided with the US that they want their citizens back for 2 years if they come to the US and get training in something on this particular skill on this skills list. So if you're looking for the J1 waiver, you've got to first go to your home country, get a no objection from them. Your home country then automatically sends that letter, whether it's a yay or nay, over to the Department of State. When the Department of State gets it, it is, if the home country says we have no objection, it is not a slam dunk that the Department of State will also say, okay, great, we don't have a problem with you saying, right? It's not how it works. The Department of State makes its own determination, and then the Department of State sends their recommendation, yay or nay, to USCIS, and then USCIS basically has the final word and issues an approval notice or a denial notice. So I have personally never seen USCIS issue an approval notice where the Department of State has said no, that they do not that they do not support this waiver. That is not to say it's never happened. It is to say that I have never seen it happen. So if you are concerned the Department of State is not going to issue a favorable recommendation, or if they already have not, that is something that we could actually have a much more in-depth conversation about based on the particular circumstances of your specific case. But that's what I've seen very much in general. Let's see here. Over on YouTube, we've got Bridget. Hey, Bridget, how are you? If my daughter did a marriage case, green card, maybe if my daughter and I did a marriage green card case at the same time and I got approved, but hers is still pending for 5 months. She is interview. Okay, hold on. Thank you. If my daughter and I did an interview for a marriage case, green card same time, and I got mine approved, but hers is still pending for 5 months. She is 16. Should I be worried? So I'm going to assume that, so she's your daughter. I honestly, I don't know that I'd be worried. I'd be sort of more annoyed that it's not approved. She's 16. I would, it could be that the case went to a different officer. It could be, it could be a lot of different things. I would reach out to the Immigration Service and ask them what's happening. I would check the processing times first, but I would, if y'all were interviewed at the same time, same day, same time, same interview, I would reach out to the Immigration Service and be like, hey, what's up? What are we doing here? Why is this not moving forward? It's been 5 months. Well, I have to say you're awfully patient waiting 5 months for something like that. If that's something that you want our office to look into for you, we're more than happy to do that. But I would reach out to the Immigration Service and ask them, you guys are past processing times. If in fact you are past processing times, and see what's going on there. But yeah, 5 months seems a little bit long, especially if she's truly a minor. It could be that maybe background checks haven't come back yet, but usually in those circumstances, I will reach out to them and ask what's happening and then kind of go from there. And if you didn't get a response, ask again. There's nothing wrong with asking again. Great question. Where do you check processing times? So hold on one second. I'm actually going to bring up the website for you. So if you go onto the internet, USCIS, go under USCIS.gov. If you scroll down their page, I'm actually doing it now. Everything on their homepage is in boxes. So there's a box, and the title of that box is Manage Your Case. If you are looking for your specific case and you want to know what the status is, you can check that first link under Check Your Case. Sorry, I have a verification window that popped up, but you can go there and then you can enter your receipt number, your specific receipt number for your specific case. Click Check Status. It'll give you a status. If you are looking for general processing times, go back to that homepage under Manage Your Case, and then click that second link, which is Check Processing Times. And then scroll down a teeny bit, and it has you go through 3 separate drop-down boxes. The first one is the form, and that is whatever form you filed. The second one will give you the form category. Forms typically can be used for more than one category, so they want to know which category you're asking about. And then the field office or the service center that's currently processing your case. And then you click Get Processing Time, and that will give you a processing time. So the processing times are generally what they are processing 70 to 80% of the cases that are similar, that are in that same category as yours. Will there be cases that are processed quicker and longer than these processing times? Absolutely. But according to the Immigration Service, about 70 to 80% of the cases fall within those processing times. So I would take a look there and see what you see. So I hope that's helpful, Bridget, and good luck. Hopefully your daughter gets approved if she does come back, and then we can celebrate. I like to celebrate wins, even if they have nothing to do with my office. Let's see, what else do we have here? Someone is saying I need information on an I-129F. An I-129F is used, that's a form number, and it's used to process a fiancé visa. So the fiancé visa is, it is an application that is filed when your fiancé lives outside of the U.S. and they are getting married to a U.S. citizen. So that's what the I-129F is used for. Can my dad petition for me while I have an order of deportation? I don't actually handle deportation cases. I think the answer is yes. I do not know for a fact, though. Let me take that back. I'm pretty sure the answer is yes. But the real question is, can you versus should you? Can somebody file something for you? Absolutely. Can they pay the fees, fill out the paperwork, and send it in? Yes. The better question is, should they? And I don't know if they should or not. I don't know the repercussions of filing for someone, filing a green card for someone when they have a deportation order. My office doesn't handle any deportation cases. That is not what we do. You want someone to answer that question who handles deportation cases all day, every day. And that's not what my practice is. So that is a better question for one of my many colleagues that handles deportation cases. Let's see, what else do we have here? What are the steps for a U.S. citizen to file for a 5-year-old child? File what? Are you filing for a green card? I'm assuming is what you mean. If you are, I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Let me see, what other questions do we have? Sorry, y'all, I'm a slow scroller. Let's see here. Let's see here. Someone is saying, so I filed Form I'm assuming you mean 129, but did not submit my evidence. What do I do in that situation? If you filed an I-129, or really if you filed any form with immigration, and you didn't file any supporting documentation, more than likely you will either get a request for further evidence. That would be very generous of them, truly, if all you did was file the forms. More than likely, you will either get a notice of intent to deny or a denial notice. And then you will have an opportunity to submit the evidence that you didn't submit. But that is only if they give you one of those things. So if you didn't submit any evidence, if you just submitted the forms and the filing fees, chances are you will get a denial notice. That is what I would think that they would give you. Because without evidence for them to evaluate, there's really nothing for them to evaluate. So that is frankly very easy for them to deny and get it off their desk and move on to the next case. But if you are looking to refile, then I would work with an attorney who can help walk you through and request, documentation from you, and help you do that. What's the best thing to do if your biometrics have been delayed? It's been 60 days now. So you can, depending on what type of case it is, because biometrics are issued for both family-based and employment-based cases, you can reach out to the immigration service and ask them, like, where's my biometric notice? Quite honestly, I mean, I just did that for one of my clients last week. I was like, hey, you guys said you wanted biometrics, but you didn't give me a notice, right? So you can reach out to the immigration service. You can reach out to them if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to them or you don't know how to reach out to them. You can certainly have a lawyer reach out to them on your behalf, but yeah, you can just ask them for it. There's as many changes as we are seeing on our end. The immigration officers are seeing changes on their end too. And so having worked at immigration, sorry, I'm about to put my light back on. Having worked in immigration in DC, it's a process to get things. Oh, there we go. Hello, light. That's very bright. There's a process, right? And so there's a lot happening at immigration right now. So they are moving just as quickly as we are. And so things fall through the cracks, right? I'm not one of these folks that's going to like completely bash immigration and say that they're super horrible and all the things when their people and things fall through the cracks, right? That's it. I don't like all the decisions I get from them for sure, but they're human. So I would reach out to them. Just reach out to them. Let me see here. What else do we have? Hi, Sashi Sharma. Glad you're here. Rod has asked over on YouTube. Hey, Carol, thank you for a very informative show. I'm glad you liked it. Glad you like just hanging out with me on a random Tuesday evening. Can someone apply for a home country passport after a granted motion to dismiss a very old withholding of removal? I don't see where. So the short answer to the question is I kind of don't know, right? But if I were to sort of think through that, I don't see where applying for a passport in your home country has anything to do with removal, right? Like your home country is going to process a passport application for you. Now, I think the process of maybe getting that passport application in and done may be an issue, just depending on where you are in the world. But that seems like a super technical issue. But the short answer is I don't know, right? I'm not one of these attorneys that has to have all the answers. But I don't see why you wouldn't be able to apply for a passport of your home country. I don't know why the immigration service would prevent you from doing that. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if anything, the US would want you to have a passport that would prove what country you were from. And if they were looking to remove you, it makes it easier for them if you have a passport. But, I would talk with someone that does deportation defense all day, every day, to get a better answer on that one. What do we have on Instagram? If I buy a rental home, can I apply for an E2 visa? It depends. I know no one ever likes that answer. I really try not to say that, but it really does. Are you buying a rental home as part of is your business model buying and renting homes? Like, is that your business model? Or, and you're buying like your 18th, rental home, and then you're going to rent it out and you're actively getting, rental from tenants? Or, because if that is the case, then yes, if that is your business, then I would say, you may be able to use that and qualify for an E2. If you are buying one rental home, that you are going to live in, or maybe one rental home that you're maybe not going to live in, and then you're going to rent out to somebody, I think that's a little harder. I think that's a little harder, but it really depends on facts. It depends on how many rental homes you have, what you're trying to do. Do you have a business plan? I get that question a lot when it comes to people hear that they can come to the US, buy a house, and automatically get an E2 visa. So yeah, an E2 is investment. But what is the investment in? What is the business doing? So those are things that I would, during a consultation, ask you and then get your answers. And then, and then we could kind of determine whether or not that would be E2able. So yeah, so the short answer is I don't know. Short answer is possibly, but it really depends on, how you have structured that business and what you want to do with that business. And if you are from a country that allows, has a treaty with the US that allows for E2s. So I hope that was helpful. Sharam, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I hope that was helpful. Let's see what else we have here. Ooh, y'all know I do not scroll fast. Hold on one second. Hi, Bianca. I don't know if you're still on, but my buddy Bianca says hello. Although she should not be on TikTok. She should be totally relaxing, but I'm not going to call her out like that, online. I'm sure I'll get a text about that one. But I hope you are well, Bianca. I hope you truly are relaxing. Let me see here. Petitioner to be scheduled for biometrics for I-130 for spouse living abroad. Is that normal? I have not seen that happen. I'm curious as to why they want your biometrics. I'm also curious what was put in the application. If it was indicated that the individual was living in the US or had a US address at the time the application was filed, because remember, the application is a snapshot in time, then it would be totally normal. So if the person moved out of the US after the application was filed, the Immigration Service, again, is not going to know that. So they would just go ahead and issue a biometric notice. But if they were outside of the US at the time of filing and the application indicated that they were in fact living outside at the time of filing, I typically don't see biometric notices issued at that point. But the Immigration Service is doing a deeper dive when it comes to vetting. And so this may be one of their new deep dives. I don't know. I do not know. Let's see here. Got it. We submitted our I-751, which is a removal of condition application, 2 weeks late by accident. Could this be a problem? First, let me say hi to Aisha. She's another one of my buddies. Hello, dear. I hope you are well. It has been a minute since we have seen one another. So in terms of your 751 issue, a 751 is when you get what we call a conditional green card. So your green card, it's marriage-based. It's only valid for 2 years because at the time it was approved, y'all were married for less than 2 years. So you get a conditional green card. Then towards the end of that 2 years, you then have to go back to USCIS, file this removal of conditions. All things being great, you get approved, then you get your 10-year green card. You don't have to deal with USCIS for a while. So if you file it late, you're fine. I mean, I've never had CIS say to me, "Oh, you should have filed. It's horrible. It's all the things." If they ask, you simply explain to them, right? The devil is in the details, right? So I always tell people, don't lie. Number one, do not lie. You filed it late. It is what it is, right? You cannot go back in time. You can't backdate things. Just be honest, right? And I honestly have never seen immigration say that a late filing was a problem. If it makes you nervous, if you think it's going to be a problem, reach out. I'm happy to have that discussion with you, but I just haven't seen where it has been a massive problem. Now, that said, we're in much more conservative times, but I haven't honestly seen it be a problem. The most important thing is to simply tell the truth, because once immigration catches you in a lie about something, it is the lie, it is the act of lying that drives them nuts. So just be honest about it. If you've got an affidavit in there, then see what happens, quite honestly. How long do I need to wait after biometric petition by a U.S. citizen child? I sort of don't understand your question. How long do I need to wait after biometric petition? Are you a parent that is being sponsored by a U.S. citizen child? So I'm gonna sort of make up my own facts here. I'm going to assume that you're an immediate relative, that you are a parent, and that your adult child is filing for your green card for you, right? And so you've got to go in, you've got to take your biometrics. Great. I have no idea how long it takes after you get your biometrics. Everybody wants a really super specific answer, because when you get your biometric notice, everyone's all happy because things are happening, which is great, right? Things are happening, and that's wonderful. And then you have to wait again, right? So immigration is a lot of hurry up and wait. And I got to tell you, I'm not the most patient person, but immigration is a lot of hurry up and wait. So, you get some movement, and then you want continuous movement after that. You're not going to see continuous movement. That's just not particularly how immigration is set up. So you may have to wait for a little bit after you get your biometrics. But here's what I say. Whether you get biometrics, whether you get an RFE, whether you get an interview notice, I always count those as little wins along the way to an ultimate approval, because it means that someone is looking at your application. It means it's not in the black hole that you think it's in, right? So there's, so they don't tell us, there's no set time after biometrics. When they say, okay, 10 days after biometrics, you're going to hear from us again. That is unfortunately not how it works. I am just been doing this for almost 30 years, so I'm just used to sort of the silence in between the action, but I understand that my clients are not used to that. But yeah, it could be a minute. How long does it take to get your green card if your I-130 has been approved? Completely depends on your category that you are filing in. There's more than one category when you are filing for a family-based application. So it completely depends on the category. What I would recommend that you do, I would recommend that you go onto USCIS.gov and check the processing times for your type of case, because I don't know what type of case you have. And that will give you roughly what 80% of the cases, same type case that you have, are processing at. Again, for processing times, there will be some processing time. There will be a processing time on the website, and there will be some people that are processed earlier than that, and there will be some people that are processed later than that. That is just the nature of the beast. And nobody likes when I say that, nobody, but that is the nature of the beast. So I don't know how long it's going to take for your green card to get processed. But if you go on the USCIS website and look at the processing times, that will give you some indication, right, of how much longer. I get a work permit. So it looks like you have your work permit. Another question. It looks like you have your work permit. When will you get your social security number? These social security numbers are taking a while. I've had a couple clients. It's taken a while to get them. So immigration has to talk to Social Security, and they have to communicate with one another in order for the social security card to get issued. I have noticed recently, my clients tell me it is taking a while. So if it is taking a while, that is what my clients are seeing, kind of across the nation, which is so I don't know if there's just like a glitch in the matrix between Social Security and immigration at this point, but yeah, they're not happening that quickly, or maybe as quickly as they used to. What else do we have in here? What is the likelihood of getting an interview? Ow, my foot itches. What is the likelihood of getting an interview approved after divorce? I'm assuming we're talking a marriage-based green card. Can I say something no one ever likes to hear from lawyers? It depends. You can get a green card if you get divorced from your spouse who sponsored your green card. That is possible. The U.S. Immigration Service does not require people to stay in bad marriages. They don't. I mean, they don't require you to stay in a good marriage, frankly, right? They don't require you to remain married. What they want to know, assuming this is a marriage-based green card case, they want to know that when you got married, that you had good intentions when you got married, right? That your intent was not simply to get married just for the green card, that it was a fraudulent marriage, it was a sham marriage, one party paid another party. That's what they don't like to see, right? But they do not expect people to stay in bad marriages. There's a waiver. It's like clearly on the form. So the short answer is it depends. It depends on your individual situation. But in general, the U.S. Immigration Service does not require you to stay in a bad marriage in order to get a green card. And there was a question here. Oh, somebody asked, I'm not going to get the question exactly right. What did they say? Somebody was asking if they got a second interview on their marriage-based green card. Is that a bad thing? It doesn't have to be, right? It doesn't have to be. It could just mean that the officer has more questions. It could mean that something came back on your background check that the officer wants to have further conversation with you about. Could mean that the officer forgot to ask you a question or forgot to get a document from you. I always tell my clients, listen, if they're still talking to me, that's a good thing. Like, I will take that all day long. It is when I get issued a denial notice and they stop talking to me, I'm like, oh, those are hard, right? But if you want us in for another interview, I'm game. Like let's go in, let's see what they want. Let's make it happen, right? It is when they stop talking to us where things get a little dicey. But as long as they're still talking to me, as long as I'm still getting a biometric notice, as long as I'm still getting an interview notice, all the things, I am happy to have them keep talking with me. Like, every single time they talk to me is one more step in the process, and it is another opportunity for us to have a conversation about a case. When requesting for a transfer to another country, how long does it take for a decision? I'm assuming we're transferring a green card case from one country to a next. Really depends on the workload of the consulate that you are transferring from and transferring to. That is a conversation between those two consulates. Let's see here. What else do we have here? How long is the process? How long is it to process an I-130, an I-131? I don't know processing times off the top of my head, honestly. I look them up online every single time I give them to my clients. So I would say if you go into USCIS.gov, you can find the processing times on their homepage. Everything is in a box. So if you scroll down to the box that says manage your case and you go to check processing times, scroll down a little bit. You will see a drop-down menu for form. You put in I-131, you'll see form category, click your particular category, and then click the field officer service center that is currently processing your case, and it will give you the processing times for 80% of the cases that are roughly like your own. What else do we have? Any idea why my 45/30 interview was scheduled and then canceled? Oh, it could be 1,000 different things, probably none of which have anything to do with you in your case. Could be that they didn't get the file. Could be that they don't know where the file is inside the office. Could be that the officer that was scheduled to do your interview is on vacation. It could be 1,001 things that have truly nothing to do with you. Frustrating, yes, but probably I'm guessing it probably doesn't really have anything to do with you. I'm guessing it's probably just a scheduling, an internal scheduling situation within the agency. That is not something that I would be terribly concerned about if it were my client, to be honest with you. Like I wouldn't automatically think there was something wrong with the case if that happened. If your online USCIS account says your interview is waived, is there a possibility that can change? Absolutely, all the time. Absolutely. Absolutely. The Immigration Service can absolutely change their mind on requiring an interview. Absolutely. I prepare all my clients emotionally and mentally to have an interview. If we don't, great. But I prepare all of my clients to emotionally tell themselves that they're going to have an interview. If that's something that freaks them out, we got to get you to a point where you're not freaked out by it. In general, cases not being interviewed, having interviews waived, that's sort of gone at this point. So I will cross my fingers for you that you do not have, that your case just gets approved without an interview. But yeah, that can absolutely change. What else do we have here? Someone's asking a question about VAWA. My office doesn't handle VAWA cases. So that's not something I can answer well for you. If my partner has a 2-year conditional green card, is it okay for us to travel outside the States? Sure. That's what the green card is for. Now, short answer to that is yes. If you have a conditional 2-year green card, you can use it to travel outside of the States. The better question is, should you, with your individual circumstances, travel outside of the US right now? And the short answer to that is, I have no idea about your individual situation. If you have, or the person that has that 2-year conditional residence, or even a 10-year green card at this point, or a work visa, if there is a criminal history of any kind anywhere in the world, I do not recommend traveling internationally right now, period. I don't care if the judge said, oh, this is expunged. I don't care if you've, potentially served your time. I don't care if you've paid your fine. I don't care if you've done the community service that was required. And in terms of the criminal case, the criminal justice system is 110% done with you. If you travel, even if you have a green card, and they run your name on your way back in, and if the crime committed could put you into deportation proceedings, the immigration officers will do so. So I'm only recommending that people travel right now if they have a squeaky clean background, like as in forever. Squeaky clean. If it is less than squeaky clean after you got your green card, even before you got your green card, I wouldn't go anywhere near would not go anywhere near an international terminal. I would not do it. So if there's something in your background that is making you ask that question, or something in your friend's background that is making you ask that question, have a conversation with an attorney. Have a consult. Traveling right now is it can be a little dicey for folks. Let's see. Do I handle marriage fraud? It depends. It depends on the type of marriage fraud case. Is it really marriage fraud? Did the Immigration Service say it was actually marriage fraud? If they did, why did they think it was marriage fraud? So that's a very broad question. So if you have been denied a benefit green card because the Immigration Service has said, you committed marriage fraud, that is something that we'd have to talk about during a consultation. Let's see here. Advice on criminal case applying for marriage green card. That is something you'd have to have a consultation to even scratch the surface of. The Immigration Service is looking more and more. I shouldn't say more and more. They're doing more vetting. Like, the current president wants way more vetting. He doesn't believe that there's enough. So if you know that you have a criminal history and you're looking to apply for a green card, that is not something you should be doing by yourself. That is not something you should be doing by yourself or doing with someone that does not have a law degree. Criminal overlap can get complicated very, very quickly. And so the more complicated it gets, the higher the chances of a denial are. So I would say we need to do a consultation. We need to figure out what that criminal case was, where it was, when it was, and how to the best of our ability we think the U.S. Immigration Service would look at that case, and then you make the hard decisions after we do the analysis. And by hard decision, I mean, do you move forward with your case or do you not? We can do the legal analysis, but at the end of the day, it's our clients that have to make the decision whether or not they want to move forward with the case or not. I filed for an adjustment of status. USCIS is asking for an I-94, but I came through the border. I don't have one. Then you don't have one, right? But if you came through the border, if you're here without status, then you cannot adjust your status. That is very generally speaking. So if you are not working with an attorney right now, I would highly recommend that you work with an attorney, because something has already been filed. The Immigration Service has issued an RFE. They're asking for an I-94 card. So they already know that you did not come through the U.S., that you did not cross the border or come into the U.S. You were not admitted and inspected, is what they're going to say. So you don't have an I-94 card. So I would have a conversation with an attorney and see how, given your particular circumstances, you can move forward and see what that looks like. Because 9 times out of 10, like, if they're asking for something, especially something that a sister agency issues, they already know that you don't have it, right? So don't lie. Do not lie, right? The lie is the worst part. So I would have a conversation with a lawyer and see what the best avenue is. Someone's asking what state I work out of. I am located in Florida, but I work with clients all over the country and all over the world. So I can work with folks in all 50 states. File for me now. She is 21 years old. This is the right time to file the I-130 now. I don't really understand your question. Depending on who you are to this person, you can file, but the rules on filing and it's really the category that you are in that will be impacted when you file. So this person, they're 21, so they're no longer a dependent. So we'd have to see what category they would fall under, if any, and then kind of move forward from there. Let's see here. Husband filed for naturalization in March. I'm assuming March of this year, in Atlanta. No interview yet. Should I be worried? I don't think so, but I don't actually have any NATS cases pending in Atlanta right now. So I haven't been checking the processing times, but if you go onto the USCIS website, you can check the processing times for naturalization cases out of Atlanta. And then that will tell you whether or not you are outside of processing times. But in general, trying to think of my last NATS case, one that just got approved. I can't remember when I filed it, quite honestly, but I mean, it was maybe 5 to 7 months. The last ones I filed have been for sure less than a year. For sure they've been less than a year, but I can't tell you like without actually pulling the files, without actually looking them up in the system. But yeah, 5 months doesn't particularly throw me off. It doesn't sort of, make my heart start palpitating for you. Now, if you said 5 years, then yes, I would be concerned about that. But 5 months, no, I'm not terribly concerned about that. But again, I would look on the USCIS website, and see what their current processing times are, because that will give you some time. That will give you sort of a realistic look at the time. Should one upload unsolicited evidence after waiting 9 months? First of all, I don't know what kind of case you have, and that's fine. I am never a fan of providing the Immigration Service documents that they haven't specifically asked for. If they want the information, they'll ask. I mean, truly, they'll ask for it. I mean, in most cases, they'll ask for it. We just have a new policy for family-based cases where if you don't give them essentially like the bare bones minimum, they will deny your application without an RFE. But I'm never a big fan of asking them to marry up evidence that they have not submitted to the correct file. Now, if you are using your My USCIS online account, obviously it will go directly into your account. But depending on what you're trying to upload, I'm never sort of a big fan of just willy-nilly giving them information that they haven't asked for in the middle of the case when your case is not being processed. Like your case isn't actively being processed at that point. By actively being processed, I mean on an adjudicator's desk. So that's me. But one of the good and bad things about immigration is that there are multiple ways to get to your end goal, right? So if you talk to 5 other immigration attorneys, they might say, "Oh, I don't agree with Carol." I absolutely tell my clients, just upload whatever, upload it all, right? And that, and that strategy may absolutely work for them. And I respect that difference of opinion. So my opinion is I just generally don't like to upload stuff like that. Upload stuff where they're not asking for it. Here's a good question. Why is their seat number invalid when I check it online? I received it about 2 weeks ago. You know, sometimes that happens to me and I have the very same question and I wish I had a great answer for you, but I don't. So sometimes I think it just hasn't, well, I guess let me take that back. Um, there are, so if you have, I believe, VAWA cases and U visas. I'm not 100% sure about VAWA, but I do know that U visas, but I think VAWA falls under the same thing. I believe that those case numbers show up as invalid because they are sensitive cases. And so they don't want someone to be able to track the status of your case because they are typically quite sensitive cases. So I don't know if your case is a VAWA or a U visa, and you certainly don't have to say in a public forum. But the U visas I have seen don't, like, those come up as invalid. Like, they don't give you status updates online. So that's why I think VAWA cases are the same, although I don't work on VAWA cases. And sometimes, so if it's outside of the U or VAWA, it's just plain Jane case or whatever. No sensitivities there in the case. It could just be a glitch in the software, y'all. Like, happens. Like, I know we don't like that, but it could honestly just be a glitch in the software. I have had that happen before. Never pleasant, but sometimes that is what happens. Would I suggest uploading new evidence prior to an interview or just take it with me? I tell my clients just take it with you. I don't think the officer is going to log in and look, but I mean, by the time the interview is set, by the time you have the interview notice, the officer could already have the file, and could already be looking at it. So if you're uploading things, that officer may not see what you've uploaded because they already have the file in front of them. So I just bring it with you. Just bring it with me. Someone says you're so positive. I'm not quite sure if you're being sarcastic, and if you are, that's totally fine. But if you're not, I appreciate it. I do honestly try to be positive. I think cases are getting approved, y'all. Cases are 110% getting approved. Immigration is hard, and this is a hard area. This is your life. So I try to the extent that I can to be positive about it. I don't like the whole doom and gloom aspect of it. And some of it is not so fun. Some of it, I definitely get decisions I don't like, right? I get decisions that my clients don't like. But I do try to stay positive about it because I think you get what you put out there. Let's see here. Hold on. I had my asylum interview again for the second time in 4 years. First one, officer said glitch issue on Camu. I don't know. Okay, so my office doesn't handle asylum cases, but here's the deal on that. I am happy when immigration sends me a notice, right? So if you are getting a second interview, while I understand that's not what you want, I understand you want an approval, I would say the silver lining is that 1, your case is not lost, 2, your case is on someone's desk, and 3, now you have a concrete opportunity to go back in and get your case adjudicated. That is how I look at this. I could very much look at it as 4 years is too long, all the things, but somehow they have, self-corrected and you have another interview. I would look at that as a good thing. That's how I would look at that. That's what I would tell my client if they were sitting in that situation. But if you want someone to go in with you at your interview, you want a lawyer to go in with you, I would highly recommend that, just because it has been second interview in 4 years. So I would say look for a lawyer who handles asylum cases all day, every day, and have that lawyer go in with you and, advocate on your behalf and, and get you prepared for the interview. I've been waiting almost 3 months for a decision after interview. What could be the reason? The reason is a large caseload, y'all. The reason is a large caseload. The reason could be they are waiting for, what was I going to say? Waiting for background checks to come back. The reason could be something came back in the background check and they are digging through that one issue. The reason could be a supervisor has to approve all cases out of that particular office, and maybe that supervisor is on vacation, maybe that supervisor is ill, maybe for whatever other reason that supervisor has been out of the office, maybe that supervisor took another role in a different office doing something completely different and they have not backfilled that role, thus all those cases are just sitting. It could literally be anything. I know that we always sort of go towards the worst case, which is, oh my God, there's something wrong with my case. There may not be anything wrong with your case, right? It could be things that have zero to do with you. It could be someone's on vacation. It could be someone left and they just haven't backfilled the position yet. It could be anything. But I wouldn't go for the negative automatically. I would not automatically go for the negative. I see several questions in here, like some nitty-gritty questions about asylum. My office doesn't handle asylum, so I am not at all the best person to ask those questions of. And I'm perfectly comfortable saying that I'm not the best person. There's lots of immigration lawyers out there that do handle asylum cases, and they do them very well. I just don't happen to be one of them. This is another processing question, which I think is good for everyone to hear. I got an RFE, I'm assuming just for your birth certificate, submitted it 15 days ago. How long do I have to wait? More than 15 days is my answer. There is no specific time after you get your biometrics, after you submit, after you respond to your RFE, after you respond to your notice of intent to deny. There is no specific time where they have to respond to you, right? I understand that in the real world, 15 days is, some people think that's a long time. But in the immigration world, 15 days is like nothing. 15 days is like 2 seconds in immigration time. So it may take a month or 2 or 3 or 4 before that officer looks at the case again. Do you go all the way to the back of the line? Like, no, because your case is already on an officer's desk. But you have to remember, as that officer clears cases off their desk, new ones are put on their desk, right? So officers are given sort of leeway to manage their own desk. So 15 days is not a long time. 15 days does not, if my client called me with 15 days, I would not be worried about that at all. So, but there is no specific time. But 15 days is truly like 2 seconds in the immigration world, given some of the other processing times that we have to contend with. Let me see here. Oh, I love this question from Freeman. So I got married. I love this. So I got married. We got divorced, and I'm thinking of getting married again. Is that a good idea? I have no idea. Like I don't know. Like I can't answer that for you. I love the question. I think it's incredibly adorable. But I have no idea. If you all are in a place where you want to get married again, get married again. Like here's what I tell my clients, because I'm assuming you're asking because there's some sort of immigration process somewhere going on in this, in this potential, remarriage or whatever. I always tell my clients, live your life the way you want to live your life. My job, what I do, is to overlay immigration on top of your life. It's my job to understand how you are living your life and explain that through documents that I ask from you that we submit to the Immigration Service, so that the Immigration Service can say, oh, and check all the approval boxes, right? So I can't tell you if you should get married again. Like, I have no idea. I don't know. But I love the question. But I don't know. I have no idea. That is completely up to you and your ex-spouse, maybe new old spouse, right? I don't know. But now I'm feeling like invested. Now I want to know what you ultimately decide. So yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. But if there is an immigration situation somewhere in there, find a lawyer, reach out to my office. I'm more than happy to help. But my job is to explain your life and explain how you're living your life in your marriage and your relationship still equals an approval for a green card or U.S. citizenship. I'm in the Army, and I've applied for my mom, and it's taking so long. Yes, is the short answer. Yes, it is taking a while. I would, if you don't already, I would reach out to an attorney and see if your case is beyond the current processing times. If it is, then we ask the Immigration Service what's going on. Someone is asking if they can book a consult. You absolutely can. There's a link in the bio, and that will give you all the information. That will give you the link, and you can choose a day that works for you, a day and a time. Pay the consult fee, and then we are off to the races to chat about your case in much more detail than we can ever do here in the social public forum. Let's see here. What else do we have? What else do we have here for questions? Question. Reaching out about the investigative process. I don't know what you mean. Do you mean administrative processing? I don't know what you mean by that. If I filed an I-130 with my maiden name, will me changing to my married name affect our application? No. So immigration understands that people get married. Immigration understands that people change their name. You just need to provide them with documentation that you changed your name, that, whatever the legal documents are that you changed your name. That is not a horrible thing. Are the processing times online accurate? So I have found, quite honestly, that the processing times online are pretty accurate. That said, they are accurate for about 70 to 80% of the same case type. So some cases will be longer, some cases will be shorter, and that's just kind of the reality of it. But yes, in general, I have found that those processing times are pretty. They're pretty accurate, right? Like that's how we plan. Let me see here. No, I just answered that. I see some questions in here on asylum, and my office doesn't handle asylum cases. So those aren't really questions that I can even sort of give you like general info on. How long does it take to get your permanent residence after submitting your medical exam? Well, right now your medical exams should be submitted with your initial filings. They changed that policy. So your medical exams need to be submitted with your initial filings. If your case was already filed before that policy change, then there is no sort of official timeline by which they have to, by which the Immigration Service has to process your case, right? Like, so I can't say to you, 2 weeks after you submit your medical, you'll get a decision. It doesn't happen that way, unfortunately. But again, the Immigration Service is talking to you, right? Like they've asked for your medical, which means your case is on someone's desk, which is a good thing. But you won't have to go like all the way to the back of the line, that kind of thing. Let's see here. I think this will probably be the last question, or maybe the last 2 questions. I used FOIA to find my lost I-94 and it could not be found. Can I use for an I-102? I forget what an I-102 is. It just flew out of my head, so let me look it up. I think the I-102 is when you can ask. Let me not guess. Hold on, y'all. I don't actually generally look up stuff when I'm online, but I will look this up because now I'm curious because it just left my head. So these things happen. I-102. All forms. I think 102. Okay. So the I-102 is used to replace your I-94. If the FOIA didn't find it, I'm assuming you've already looked online, like the I-94 website itself. I mean, I don't know that I would file the 102 if the FOIA didn't find it. I mean, you could, right? I just don't know that you're gonna. I don't know that it's gonna get you your I-94, and you're out the filing fee. So, yeah, I would try, if you haven't already, I would try the I-94 website, because that too is free. You know, FOIA is free. The I-94 website is free. I would file the I-102 probably as a last resort, just because there's a filing fee attached to it. But yeah, it's hard when the FOIA doesn't come back with something. And the last question I'm going to answer tonight, because I have to go eat something and respond to a couple more emails before I end my evening. Oh, where'd it go? This is the one I wanted to answer because I think it's a good question that everybody probably has at one point or another. How long does it normally take for an RFE if mailed in? You're not going to like my answer, but it is sort of as long as they take. right? So if it is a employment-based case, right, and you file that employment-based case using premium processing, their goal is to process your RFE within the same time as the original premium processing is required to take. But if it's a family-based case or a naturalization case, or a case that's not eligible for premium processing, and right now only some employment-based cases are eligible for premium processing, which is an expedited processing, then it's just going to take them as long as it takes them. But that said, right? If you were issued an RFE, you respond to the RFE, that means that your file is on someone's desk. It doesn't go to, back on the shelf waiting. It stays on the officer's desk. So most RFEs, I think you get 12 weeks to respond. I think it's 12 weeks. And so, it just it's on an officer's desk. Like, an RFE is never going to be responded to fast enough, right? It's never going to be responded fast enough the way that we would want it to be. And I get that. Again, I'm not like the most patient person in the world, but I would like, after I send it in on a Monday and they get it on a Tuesday, I would like a decision on Thursday, right? That is completely unrealistic. So it's going to kind of take them as long as it takes them. It could take them realistically like a couple of weeks. It could take them a month or so, right? It could take longer if they see something that they need to ask you about again. It could take longer if they go on vacation. It could take longer if they're sick and they're out for a little bit. It could take longer if they take a new job and the files on their desk now need to be redispersed to other officers. It's going to take time, right? And again, as someone who's not incredibly patient usually, it's just going to take some time. So again, not an answer that most people ever want to hear from me, but I think it's a good question. I think it's an important question, and sometimes I think we just have to be a little bit more patient than we would normally like to be. But that is honestly all. That's kind of all I have tonight. We've been on for over an hour, like an hour and a half. So thanks for hanging out. I will be back. Let me look at my calendar. I think I'll be back tomorrow. Hold on, let me pull up my calendar. Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. Like 7 or 8-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But this has been fun. I like chatting with you guys. I like answering, sort of just giving you like some just general information. I am an immigration attorney, but I'm not your specific immigration attorney, unless of course one of my clients hops on here, but I have not seen that happen yet. So I can't give you, really your specific case info, but if that's something you need, that's something you want to talk about, you are welcome to reach out to the office. We're happy to help you and see how we can help you move through the immigration system. If you are waiting to file your immigration case, waiting for things to get easier, waiting for things to take a shorter amount of time, waiting for things to be less complicated, that is not happening, right? It's not happening. Things are getting more complicated, and that's okay. But things are, in fact, getting approved, which is also a good thing. So again, if you want to schedule a consult, you can click the link in the bio. We are here to help. Thank you for the roses. Thank you for the glitter. I totally appreciate it. You guys are awesome. But I hope you guys have a great night. I will see you again tomorrow. Great chatting, you guys. Bye.